Hi, everybody. Welcome to the COVID-19 Task Force. Hammond Mayor Tom McDermott Jr. I want to remind all the participants that we're going to air this live on Facebook, on Hammond's Go Hammond Facebook page. I imagine a lot of people will be watching us. I wanted to start off and say thank you. And I want to point out that we have Lori helping us with interpretation, and I appreciate her being on here. So when you're speaking today during the task force, if you could please talk a little slower than normal so that Lori can keep up. Obviously, this is an important meeting that we're holding, and we want all residents to be able to access what we're saying. So please try to talk a little slower today during this so that Lori can keep up with us. And now, I don't know how we'll do this, but we should all introduce ourselves so that everybody understands who's on the line, myself included. I'll start in my office since I'm right here. First off, I want to thank Hammond's IT department for putting this together. Hey, could you go out there and tell them to stop that? Thanks. Of course, they start construction as soon as we start this. My Mayor Tom McDermott, City Hammond. I'll start over here.
Hi, Chris Campbell, IT.
Kevin Margraf, Hammond Fire.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel.
Andy Short, Hammond Police.
Please turn that around. We are properly social distanced and masked. So I'm going to go ahead and take it to around the horn. If you guys can, just unmute yourself and introduce yourself, please.
Luana Miller, Community Development Director.
Mylon Krasinski, Hammond Port Authority.
Susan Demopoulos, Clerk's Office.
Carmen Paniagua with the Housing Authority.
Phil Talon, Chief of Staff for City of Hammond.
Johnny Perez, Public Works.
Dean Button, City Engineer.
Third District Councilman Barry Tyler Jr.
Jim Talon, Park Department.
Mark McLaughlin.
Scott Miller, School City Hammond.
Scott Rako, City Council.
Matt Muta, Hammond Sanitary District.
Ron Novak, Environmental.
Karen Callahan, Franciscan Health Hammond Nurse. I'll be introducing Emily DeMario. She's a clinical resource educator in the emergency department, so I will make that official transition once we go live, if that's okay.
I'm Frank Masada, physician, comprehensive care.
We get everybody?
Kevin Smith, Corporation Counsel.
Last but not least. Emily, and we also have Emily who's going to be talking in a couple minutes. So I want to thank everybody for participating. A lot of Hammond residents really appreciated this when we did this during the first lockdown, the initial stages of the pandemic. Obviously, you know, we're dealing with the second wave in the region. I know there's other parts of the country that have dealt with more than 2 waves. This is not my area of expertise, and I plan to cover the governor's executive order, and I also plan to cover the Lake County Health Department's executive order after we do the medical report, because I think that's the most important part. Obviously, I'll talk about how these orders given by the Lake County Health Department and the governor affect us in Hammond and the Hammond's businesses. We'll also take reports from the Hammond Police and Hammond Fire Department, as well as the School City Hammond, Superintendent Miller. I appreciate being here as well. And then we'll wrap up if anybody else has anything that they want to report. So I think this task force covers pretty well the City of Hammond, medical community, the schools, Hammond City government, and public safety. So I appreciate everybody for being involved. As we did during the initial COVID-19 task force, we started off each meeting speaking with our medical community. So I want to thank Dr. Frank Masana for being with us today and ask him to give us a little update since we last spoke. How you doing, Dr. Frank?
I'm doing well. How are you, Tom? That's a lot has happened since then, obviously. But I'll skip to where we stand now. And as you said, we definitely are having a resurgence, if you want to call it a second wave, a resurgence or increasing cases. We are experiencing that I think pretty much everywhere in the country. Each state has different areas that you might consider more hot than others, but there isn't an area that really isn't, at least to my knowledge, experiencing a significant case increase. The reasons for that, we can all speculate. The weather's colder, we're indoors, or perhaps just the virus has had a chance to travel around more. There's been speculation that the virus has mutated ever so slightly to make it more contagious, but actually a little less virulent. I think Karen and Emily will talk about what they're experiencing in the hospital. Hospitalizations are going up, but not at the rate at which the positive cases are going up. And I suspect the mortality rate's probably going down overall with the increased cases. We're not experiencing as much. I think we're probably doing a much better job protecting the most vulnerable people in our society. We have a much better understanding of the virus, and we've developed some very good treatment options with remdesivir, as well as the convalescent plasma, as well as with antibodies in it, as well as I think Lilly just put out or just got authorization to release an antibody. They call it antibody cocktail that basically gives your body a boost of antibodies to help start the immune process. And all those things are what President Trump received when he was positive, and that man recovered faster than just about anybody I've seen. So it works. It's not as widely available as we would like it. We still are having some, mortality associated with it, but it is a much different scenario than when we first met, by virtue of the fact that we understand it better, understand how to protect ourselves, as well as having the supplies readily available and therapeutics to have a more successful outcome for most people. And really, at this point, we're on the precipice of a vaccine being released, I believe, the second week of December. I've heard there will be 40 million doses available by the end of the year, which is only 2 weeks after it's released. So there's going to be 40 million doses available, which is only 20 million immunizations because it's a 2-dose vaccine. And that one is by Pfizer. The Moderna is applying for emergency use authorization, and so that does not account for the doses that they will bring on board, which will only add to that. I saw Dr. Redfield from the CDC said that he believes by March there will be immunizations available for the general population. So right now they're going to target nursing homes, the most high-risk individuals, as well as frontline healthcare providers first. That vaccine, the one from Pfizer, is definitely going to be a little difficult to distribute on mass scale because of the requirement for, I think it has to be like -40 or something, -20, but significantly colder than most facilities are able to store it at. Some of the hospital systems probably will be able to invest in the right refrigeration to distribute it. There's another vaccine that sounds like it will get authorized as well, from a combination of Oxford and I think it's AstraZeneca, that only requires refrigeration, not sub-zero temperatures. If that one gets approved, it's not quite as efficacious, meaning it's only about 70%, where the other ones are 95%. 70% is actually excellent for an immunization. Anything over 60% is considered very good. So it's very encouraging where we stand. I really do believe that by this time next year, this is going to be still having some effects, but more of a memory. And I think it's pretty incredible what we as a country have been able to accomplish over the course of just 8 or 9 months with the therapeutics and vaccines. So as bad as it's been, I think we are absolutely on the tail end of it, and we just have to be vigilant and try to stick to what we know works with masks and social distancing until everybody is able to get immunized.
Okay, Dr. Frank. So basically, to summarize, and to try to translate from doctor language into normal people language, we have rising cases, but it seems like the death rate's going down. That's fair?
Yeah, I haven't done the calculation, but I believe that'll end up being the case. Yes.
Okay, and then with the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, eventually within the next, let's say 6 months, we'll have widespread vaccine availability across the United States, we anticipate, right?
Yes.
And you're also saying if you actually get sick and you go to the hospital, we have better treatment options and we have better abilities to make sure that you don't succumb to the disease. So, is that a pretty fair summary of what you just talked about?
That's a very good summarization.
Okay. That's very optimistic. I appreciate it. Obviously, let me ask you a question, Doctor. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? Because there's a lot of people watching right now, and the big debate in America is, are we going to have these huge family gatherings like we normally do? So what are you doing in the Masana household?
Well, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go start making pies. So we are still having get together, but it's going to be much smaller. My in-laws are coming, and my wife, not to get too, was adopted, and she knows her birth parents as well as the family that adopted her. The family that her parents that raised her are very high risk, so they won't be joining us, unfortunately.
Good.
But her birth parents and brother-in-law will be coming over, and that's it, unfortunately.
Good. Well, that's good, and I think that's a good example for everybody else. And I appreciate your report, Doctor, and I appreciate you participating in this. And you don't mind the weekly meetings getting back to normal?
No, I don't know that I'll be able to attend all of them, but I'll do my best. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. And Dr. Masana's comprehensive care, it's located off 169th and Klein Avenue. It's technically in the city of Gary, but I could throw a rock from Hammond
you could.
building. Wouldn't do that though, because I like your building. So anyway, thank you, Doctor, for being here. Next, I'd like to go to Karen Callahan, Franciscan Healthcare Center in Hammond, for her report. And I know she has a guest that she wants to introduce as well. So nice to see you, Karen.
Hi, good morning, Mayor Tom. Good morning, City of Hammond. Temporarily, I have taken another position within the organization, so I kind of wanted to pass the baton to Emily DeMario, who is the clinical resource educator for the emergency department, who is also a huge inspiration for the ER's COVID task force when we first started all this in March. So she'll be doing the weekly calls, but I will be her alternate if that's okay with you. So I still have access to the information, but I would like her to give the initial info, and then I'll be second.
I hope it was your position on the COVID task force that got you this huge promotion. So
that's a whole nother story, and that's an offline conversation. But what I would like to say, two things is steroids is another treatment that Dr. Masana didn't mention, which is great because we do have a plethora of the steroids. And then the second thing is about Thanksgiving is I would encourage people to stay within their bubble. Everybody has a little bubble, right? They have maybe their in-laws or maybe their children, or I have an 89-year-old mother that is in my bubble. So I would say big gatherings, I would say no, stay within your bubble. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Emily, and she is fantastic. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Emily. Welcome to the COVID-19 task force.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
It doesn't pay a lot, but it's really important. A lot of people watch it.
It is. So I'll start with the numbers. This is as of 11/3 within our hospital. We have 27 in-house COVID positive, 38 rule outs, 740 have been discharged home, and unfortunately 79 deceased. Right now in our ICU, there's currently 5 ventilators in use, all COVID positive, 10 total positive in ICU. Our ER, we are doing many testing in home. We are doing everything that we can here at the hospital to keep our community safe, making sure that symptomatic and asymptomatic or positive and not positive do not intermix. The hospital's been doing great, adding many more negative pressure rooms. And that is an isolation room that just prevents the air from getting like into the hallways, into other rooms. PPE is doing good. We're in good supply. Our staff is up to date on all of the evidence-based, the medications that Dr. Masana went over, and the steroid that Karen discussed. We have been able to start educating our staff on the antibody treatment. And with Thanksgiving, yes, I would absolutely agree with that statement Karen said, as far as sticking within your household or your small bubble that you have been accustomed to seeing this whole pandemic. There's a great tool on the CDC that says, it's a photo, which I wasn't sure. Karen, did you have that photo?
I sent it to Phil. So Phil was going to try to get it up to show. I don't know if, I'm not trying to call you out, Phil, but you did say you would do it.
I'll get it to Chris right now, see if we can get it up. So we'll get it up there.
As soon as I heard Phil's name, I started shaking my head. So.
Just an interesting little, day one, you could get exposed, wait 5 days and get a test, and your test could be negative, although on, day 8, you now have symptoms and you've exposed everyone that you've seen from day 5 to day 8, because it's possible to be infectious and contagious and not show symptoms and test positive. So it's just something to be mindful of with the holidays coming up.
Emily, let me ask you a question. Right now, it seems like one of the biggest frustrations I have as mayor is I have a lot of officers and firefighters and even people in my own staff that become exposed to COVID because we're working with the public. And then we send them in for tests and it takes a long time to get the results back. I know that I've been going and getting the rapid test lately, and I hear that that test is not as accurate, but at least we're getting quick responses back. Are you guys, do you do the rapid test at Franciscan, or are you still doing the deep nasal swab? I don't know what it's called. I know the one that touches your brain. That's the one.
Yes, that brain one, the PCR. For the majority of tests, we do the PCR. Unfortunately, our rapid waxes and wanes as far as supply. We try to keep the rapids for, do we need to know immediately? Is this patient very sick? That kind of thing. So the majority, unfortunately, it is a long turnaround, but yeah, that deep nasal one is the one that we primarily do for the outpatient, the people that will go home.
What's the turnaround on the deep nasal one? Is it, because it was, I know during the initial phases, it was getting up 8 and 10 days, which is counterproductive, right?
Right. Yeah. Luckily, usually 24 to 48 hour turnaround time now.
That's great. That's good news.
The other thing, Mayor Tom, with the rapid, if you're positive, you're positive. But if you're negative, you could still be positive. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
totally.
The rapids are for if someone came in and had a heart attack, and we want to make sure they go to cath lab and we don't expose the whole cath lab, we do a rapid. Because we need to know right that second, within an hour, if it's positive. But I mean, Dr. Masana can probably talk to that too, but that's why it's really important to get the deep brain one, which is the PCR.
So the PCR test is a preliminary chain reaction. It's a method of how the test is actually processed. The rapid test is done by something called immunoassay, which can be done. These machines can be put anywhere. You don't need sophisticated laboratory setting to do it, whereas the PCR test you do. And the PCR test is more accurate. There's no doubt about it. The rapid test should not be used for asymptomatic individuals. Is not recommended for that. And it is definitely not as accurate. There are situations where it is good, as they were talking about, where you just need an answer right away, especially in an emergency room setting where somebody's The PCR test also can be done through saliva. So there is a saliva test as well as the nasal swab. Now, I just texted you.
For the saliva test, Dr. Frank?
It's same turnaround time. It's the same method of doing the test. I just texted you a link to LabCorp has an at-home test that you can log on. It's free. You just type in your information and register. They overnight you the test kit, and then you do the test yourself at your home, put it in a FedEx Dropbox, and you get results within 48 hours, which, 24 to 48 hours. I've utilized it myself. It's a very good test. It is a PCR test, and it's accurate, and it can save people the trouble of having to go stand in line and wait to get a test. So everybody I come across, I recommend that that they just order one and have one at home. You'll be able to get results a lot quicker without a lot of headaches. So the PCR test is the gold standard. It's not 100%. I've seen false positives, what I believe to be false positives and false negatives on both. I've had somebody that tested positive on the PCR, got the rapid test. It was negative, did another PCR, and that was positive. So that kind of supports that the rapid test just is not quite as accurate and should be used in only certain situations. That's my opinion. And I think that kind of follows the guidance.
Thank you, Dr. Frank. Next, I'd like to turn over to the School City Hammond, Superintendent of Schools, Scott Miller. I appreciate you being part of the task force, Scott. And can you please give an update to the task force on the School City Hammond?
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to be here. In the car heading down on an errand to Indianapolis today. So my wife Tracy's driving right now.
Thankfully.
Yes, you're right. I would like to say that, the school city has been primarily e-learning for the entire first semester. Definitely in the past month or so, that's paid off. The executive order and the Lake County order in regards to schools, really the only part that has changed is attendance at extracurricular events and sporting events is limited now to the participants, the coaches, and family members. That is it. So we are working to quickly try to get a online streaming service up and running so that people can still watch the games and such from home. Hope to have that up in the next month or so. But right now, we can't have people from the community coming to sporting events unless they're parents or siblings per the executive order for any of our events. Right now, we're not scheduled to go back until the middle of January. We will reevaluate that situation as it gets closer to the date, but we'll continue with the e-learning up until at least the middle of January.
Scott, has any decision been made about the winter sports yet? I know that some schools have delayed. I didn't know what the School City Hammond has made a decision in that regard.
So we're still we're supporting the winter athletic programming. I am quite concerned about the mental health and the social emotional well-being of our student body, and if we can still provide a connection point to kids like
Hey, Scott?
Competitions.
I think we're losing you, Superintendent Scott. I bet you're probably heading down in the cornfields right now.
But yes, we're still practicing and we're still offering our winter athletic program.
Cool. I appreciate it. You got anything else you want to share with the task force? And I appreciate you being here.
No, I'm not sure there's anything else except that we're committed to the safety of the families of our staff members. We employ over 2,000 people, so it is a big deal whatever decisions we make with our schools. But we're also concerned about our kids not being in school. It's been since March since they've been in school, so we will try to make the best decision possible when it comes to returning in January.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being part of the task force. I'll see you next week, and tell Tracy to be careful driving to Indy.
Thank you.
Bye. See you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Scott. Happy Thanksgiving to you too. with Superintendent Scott Miller at the Hammond Public Schools. Next, I'd like to, is there any reports from Hammond City Council or anybody else from the City of Hammond before I get into the orders from Lake County Health Department and Governor Holcomb? I know Councilman Barry Tyler is on the line. Councilman Barry, I know that you were a big proponent of putting the task force back together. Do you want to say anything on behalf of the Hammond City Council, Barry?
Just that I'm appreciative of you convening the task force together again. I know it's really important for us to share information with our residents as they look to us and really are looking to us to set the example for how they should be going about their lives, given that our COVID numbers are rising and steadily rising. So, I'm just, like I said, appreciative to be a part of this, and hopefully more people will begin to take it more seriously and continue wearing masks and wash their hands and socially distance. I know we have a lot of events that we're scheduled that we're adapting and switching to prioritize the safety of our community. So thank you for that, and thank you for everybody else for being on board.
Thanks, Councilman. It's good to see you. I know Councilman Rakos is on the line. Councilman Scott, you have anything you want to say?
Yes, I just wanted to, reiterate what Barry said. And also the council, really since it began, has been going in a combination of Zoom meeting and on-scene meeting. President Warple has been very much there at the council thing, at the council chambers itself, where I've been pretty consistently, and Barry and 4 or 5 of us have been doing it on Zoom, and it seems to work fine. And right now, I think that's what we need to do, and we're going to continue to do that. And we do thank you for bringing this back together.
Thanks, Councilman Rakos. I appreciate it. And Corporate Counsel Kevin, are you out there? Could you unmute real quick?
Hi, Mayor.
Hey, under the governor's order, I know Zoom meetings are allowed. How long does that go on for?
I believe the governor's most recent order, Mayor, is 2048. I believe it's valid until December 12th.
December 12th. So that should be extended, obviously, right?
We anticipate it being extended given the numbers.
Because we couldn't do Zoom meetings a year ago. That would have been illegal. But now, because of the COVID, these meetings are allowed. And like you said, even though it's scheduled to end in December, it's probably going to be extended, I imagine, through the spring.
He's done that consecutively, Mayor, since March. So we anticipate it happening again.
Okay. Kevin, I'm about to go through the Lake County Health Department's order. I didn't know if you had anything else on behalf of Corporate Counsel.
I just wanted to remind everybody that the governor's executive order 20-48 is what controls statewide. However, there is a part in there that indicates that counties or municipalities can make more stringent requirements. So when the mayor goes over the Lake County order, that's basically what happened. The governor issued an order, and then Lake County issued another order that has some more stringent requirements based upon their perception of what's happening, or not perception, but their reading of the numbers and what's happening in Lake County.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate it. Next, I'd like to turn over to Kevin Margraf of the Hammond Firefighters. He's the Deputy Chief of the Hammond Fire Department for an update from Public Safety in Hammond. You can get closer, Kev. I'll put my mask on. You can get closer.
No, good morning, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. Our PPE is, we're in good shape in regards to PPE. I would say that since the beginning of September, we've had 31 positive transports of people from the city to local hospitals. And within the last 3 weeks, we've probably tested 14 firefighters for COVID-19. 8 of them have been positive. They've been quarantined at home. The other ones have tested negative. Then obviously having no symptoms and no fever, under no medication, they're back to work. So obviously the second wave has hit us much harder than it did in the spring. And we just continue to preach to our guys, PPE, mask up. We've purchased gaiters for everybody on the fire department. We stress that they wear those, even around the fire stations, in the fire rigs, wherever they are. Because we know it's around us. Everybody knows somebody that's contracted it now, and they need to be vigilant about what they're doing.
I appreciate it. You still are accepting PPE donations, right?
We do, and we're always on the look.
So if somebody wanted to donate, masks or gloves or other types of
Absolutely.
PPE, where should they bring it, Kevin?
They should bring the Central Fire Station, 6110 Calumet Avenue.
Okay.
Have them ask for Jeff Smith, Fire Chief.
Good. I appreciate it. Thanks, Kevin. Good to see you. We'll go to Andy Short of the Hammond.
Real quick, I need to ask where the address was. He cut out on my feed.
Oh, forgot about Lori.
Yeah. What's the address again for the Hammond?
6110 Calumet Avenue.
Thanks, Lori.
Thank you, Lori.
Next, we'll go to Andy Short, the Assistant Chief of Police. How you doing?
I'm
Chief
good.
Short?
I'm good. How's everybody today?
Good.
Well, first, I want to thank everybody for being here today. And
Hey, you might want to take off the mask.
oh, okay. I want to kind of thank everybody for being here and appreciate their service because it's been crazy. Our PPE, we got quite a bit of supplies there, and we steady ordering as much as we can. The second wave hit us pretty hard also. I think since March, we have had probably about 30 officers tested positive.
30?
Since March.
Mm-hmm.
So we, we're still advising you guys, hey, man, be safe. We supply them with everything, masks, gloves. So I think we're doing a pretty decent job out there.
Okay.
And as far as this crime on the streets, we're steady out there. We're not backing off from anything. We're doing what everybody asks us.
Let me ask you a question, Chief. So, during the summertime, if we drove by the skateboard park, I always use this example, and we saw 50 kids during the summertime, we wouldn't stop them and break them up. Whereas during the first wave, we knew that they weren't supposed to be doing that. And you guys were active about breaking up people gathered in public, right?
Yes.
Now that the Lake County Health Department's issued an order that says we can't have more than 25 people, even outside in any event, is the Hammond Police going to be monitoring this type? These are the types of questions I get. Are you guys going to be out there at the skateboard park busting up these groups of kids that are larger than 25 people?
If they're out there, we're going to try to do the best we can just to tell them, hey, this is dangerous for both sides, for you and ourselves. But we're also noticing that we're getting a wave of people calling, want us to go to these different places. So we've been telling them, hey, call the health department, and if you and they're supposed to be the one that's actually enforcing it. But if you can't get a hold of the health department, get a hold of us, and we'll go out there, we'll document it, and we'll ask you guys, hey, this is not good. And so we'll try to bust it up.
Because and I appreciate you saying that. And I think it's important for our residents to know that the health department puts out an order that I'm going to cover in a second, and they don't have the ability to police those orders, really. They have very few inspectors in the Lake County Health Department. So they put out these orders that say, you can't gather in groups of larger than 25, and they don't have the teeth to enforce that order. So they need the help from the police and the firemen, the police officers across Lake County to help enforce this. And of course, the mayor's office and people that work for the city. So I guess that's why I threw the question at you, Chief.
Yeah, we will go out there. We'll do the best we can to bust it up. And like I send the guys on their way. There is a IC code for it that I think the state police has in order to enforce it. But normally what I do, I go out there, I speak to you guys, and usually they're pretty considerate. They'll leave. And then if it's at a business like a barbershop or something that we see as some type of violation that somebody called, we'll just go there, we'll document it, we'll give it to the state police, and then they'll be the one that enforce that on them.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. Okay, so we've covered medical community, we covered the schools, we've covered firemen and the police officers. Anybody else have anything they want to add? Anybody before I get into, let me ask Jim Taylor, could you unmute real quick?
Yep,
hey, Jim, the question I just threw at the chief of police is a question that you and your staff could monitor and police as well. How do you guys plan to approach this? Because I will cover it in a second. There is a 25-person limit to outdoor gatherings, and your parks are where people gather.
Right. Not only the parks, but the buildings, I think, was the big concern. So we submitted our safety plan to the Lake County Health Department for the Sportsplex, for the Gene Shepherd, for the Civic Center. There was an exception in there for tournaments to still take place. So you will still see cars at the Sportsplex. But for minors that are playing in these
the Lake
tournaments.
County Health Department, to summarize, the Lake County Health Department approved the safety plans for the Gene Shepherd Center, for the Sportsplex, and for the Civic Center. That's true, right?
Correct. Yes, we just got those back yesterday from them, or this morning. So there still will be cars there. Minors, the kids that are playing in these tournaments, are allowed to have one parent there. If we have the adult leagues, like the adult soccer leagues, there are no fans allowed in there. We are still doing the masks are mandated. They're still asked to separate. A lot of times we'll have the fans sitting upstairs at the sportsplex, for example, not down where they're playing. They limit the amount of people there. So we are following those guidelines from them, but there will be some additional people allowed in these facilities.
What about the skateboard park and the gatherings like that?
This will be basically what the police said. If we hear anything about it, we will probably go to them and follow their guidelines and ask those things to be broken up if it's necessary.
I remember during the first phase, we did this, and you were in a different role during the first phase than you are now. One of the things I think we did well to help the police officers in this matter is we went to places like the skateboard park and said, you can't be here. Signs that we placed all around them. They can be there now. They just can't be there in groups larger than 25. So maybe what we should do is put everybody on notice by placing signs around popular events like the skateboard park, just saying, if you have more than 25 people here, you're going to get a visit from the Hammond police, something along those lines. And then when the police officer shows up, they know that the kids know, and they just ignored it.
Right, correct. And we will do that. We have our labor force that are out there and people that are checking the parks every day. So I'll make sure that we monitor that and get the signs out. Unfortunately, we're coming into the winter time as well. So the skateboard park's not going to be as much of a factor in the winter as it would be in the summer, but it's still something we'll put out there just for safety precautions.
I appreciate it, because we do get those days every once in a while where it's 55 degrees and everybody thinks it's the middle of summer, and that's the first place they go is to your park. So I think those signs would probably be well warranted. So I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've been building up to it the whole meeting. So let's go ahead and talk about the Lake County Health Department issued an order yesterday to supplement Governor Holcomb's order. Keep in mind now, Governor Holcomb's order really wasn't that stringent. Even though we were in the red, it really wasn't that stringent. We had the ability to go deeper on a city by city, town by town basis. And I personally felt that was a failure of government because, let's say, for instance, I wanted to be super strict on COVID in Hammond, and I hampered our business's ability to make money, and I shut down government. People are still going to go to restaurants. And I always use the example, they'll just go down the street to another restaurant in Munster and Highland. So I always thought that a regional approach should be taken. I think that the governor should be leading that role personally. However, he sort of punted to each county, and the Lake County Health Department stepped up yesterday and made an order, and it's an order we're going to enforce in Hammond, Indiana. So I'm going to go through this order, and so that the restaurants and the bars and all the businesses throughout the city of Hammond know what the rules are. These were done by the Lake County Health Department. So questions or concerns should be directed to the Lake County Health Department, because I'm implementing a regional order, and it's an order from a higher level of government, county, and we have to apply it equally. And this should apply equally to every city and town across Northwest Indiana in Lake County. So this order was issued yesterday, November 24th. It's effective immediately in Hammond. The mask mandate of Governor Holcomb's executive order is reaffirmed. So that's not a big shock. You have to wear a mask indoors, and you have to wear a mask outdoors when social distancing cannot be maintained. Social distancing and washing of hands must continue. These are not big shocks. It is strongly recommended. Now, keep in mind, there's nothing legal about Thanksgiving gatherings. It's strongly recommended that holiday gatherings are kept small and to members of your immediate household. There's been governments across our country that have tried to make this as some type of statute with some type of fine. There's nothing like that in Indiana law, nothing like that in Lake County. It's just strongly recommended. So following my own example, we always have Thanksgiving as a huge family gathering under one of our roofs. And this year I sadly broke off and said, we're going to do our small little Thanksgiving at our house because I'm trying to set an example even in our family. So it's strongly recommended. If you insist in doing it, there's nothing, the cops aren't going to be knocking on your door, counting the people in your household. It's not going to work that way. It's strongly recommended. Social gatherings and events are limited to 25 people max, indoor and outdoor, max 25 people. There are exceptions. If a safety mitigation plan is in place and approved by the county health department, then that is an exception to the 25-person maximum rule. Right now in the city of Hammond, the safety mitigation plans have been approved for the Gene Shepherd Center, Safety mitigation plan has been approved for the Hammond Civic Center. A safety mitigation plan has been approved for the Hammond Sportsplex. And a safety mitigation plan has been approved for the Hammond's tree lighting ceremony that takes place on Friday. We have to submit a plan to the health department. They have to look at our plan. If they want to change our plan, they change it. And then if we're not willing to change with it, the event doesn't happen. So we cooperated with county health department, got our safety mitigation plans approved for the items I just mentioned. The Christmas parade is still being reviewed. So at this point, I can't tell you with certainty that we're having the Christmas parade. Obviously, it's an outdoor parade. Obviously, it's not as dangerous outdoor, but the Lake County Health Department's working with the city of Hammond on whether or not that event needs to be canceled or can occur. Shopping malls, retail stores, liquor stores, convenience stores, 25% capacity. Bars and nightclubs.
Mayor, just real quick, that's 75% for those.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, I read it wrong. It says that 75% capacity. Sorry, I need stronger glasses, obviously. Bars and nightclubs, which was really the big impetus for this order, was the fear that our kids, our college kids, our kids that are of age, ourselves are going to go out on the biggest bar night of the year, which is tonight, and infect everybody, and then take it home and infect their family. That's the fear. And it's a well-warranted fear because we are in a pandemic. There's a lot of people that are having trouble coming to grips with this reality. I don't wear things like this on a daily basis. I wear it because we're in a pandemic. And to deny that is just burying your head in the sand. Bars and nightclubs are limited, 25% indoor capacity, 100% outdoor capacity. If you want to go outdoors and celebrate, God bless you. It's 25 degrees. Restaurants and retail food establishments, limited to 50% capacity indoors, 100% outdoors. There's been restaurants that have built outdoor patios, and they're very smart, and they have the heat lamps and all that. 100% capacity if these restaurants undertake those types of additions. Restaurants and retail food establishments must close at midnight, just like bars and nightclubs. I failed to mention that. Bars and nightclubs must close at midnight. Restaurants and food establishments must close at midnight. Tables must be 6 feet apart. No self-service at buffets or salad bars. Customers must remain seated and cannot congregate. So if you go by a bar and you see a big crowd of people, it's supposed to be limited to 25% capacity, and everybody in that bar needs to have a seat underneath their butt. And if they don't, that bar is taking a chance on, getting in trouble with the health department, losing their liquor license. I would like to remind our bars and nightclubs in Hammond that liquor licenses are issued by the county, the same body that is issuing these orders. Your problem is not the city of Hammond if you're found in violation. Your problem is not with the city of Hammond. Your problem is with the county that gives you the liquor license. So keep that in mind. Salons, barbershops, nail shops, tattoo parlors, open by appointment only. Religious services, during the first wave, there were strict limits on this. It was very, we had to be cautious for First Amendment reasons. In fact, City of Hammond was aggressive with a church that was violating the maximum occupancy during the first phase. And we were walking lightly on potential First Amendment violations. The governor's order and the Lake County Health Department's order decided to steer clear of religious institutions. So if you're going to a religious service, there is no social distancing requirement. It says you must maintain social distancing, and we encourage those to attend online instead, but they could have capacity above the legal limits in church services for First Amendment issues only. For First Amendment issues, obviously. Funeral homes are limited to 50% capacity in their public areas. Gyms, fitness centers, yoga, dance, martial arts classes, things like that, the YMCA, Planet Fitnesses of the world, 25% capacity, and ensure social distancing. And you clean up after each use. That's always the law, actually. Movie theaters, bowling alleys, marinas, Rockwall facilities, 25% capacity, must close at midnight. Casinos, they are under the governor's order and they are allowed to remain open per agreement with the state of Indiana. So I think it's, Kevin, could you jump in on that? What's the capacity limitation on casinos right now?
Last time I checked, Mayor, I think it's 42%.
42%. Thank you. Appreciate it. Offices, like your private business, you know, other law firms, things of that nature. In Hammond, 100% capacity. But remote work is recommended and follow the mask mandate and social distancing, like we do in City Hall. All athletic events, club, recreation, sports leagues, limited to, and this goes back to what was talked about earlier, limited to participants and support personnel only. The Sportsplex does not allow spectators for adult leagues. If you're in an adult league, you can play, just you. No spectators, no wife, no kids to come out and watch your athletic prowess. Sportsplex allows only one parent or guardian for youth leagues, just one, just like Superintendent Miller was talking about earlier. This is the Lake County Health Department's order. Sportsplex practices are closed to parents unless the kids are 7 and under. And last, Sportsplex, all non-participants must be masked. Like if you're a referee or a coach or support personnel, you must be masked at all times. That's all I got. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Susan from the clerk's office, are we doing all right downstairs?
We received our first positive case in our office last week. The employee went on vacation on Friday the 13th. She got tested on the 17th, which was Tuesday. She came back Thursday positive. Our whole office went on Friday. Everyone came back negative, and I have to contribute that to the outstanding cleaning staff. Their maintenance department has cleaned, bleached the office down. We've been wearing masks. We've been hand sanitizing. We're well within 6 feet away. So I think we got pretty lucky with that.
Okay. Well, you have a small office, so that has to be scary when somebody comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Susan. I appreciate it.
Thank you. No, thank you. And thank you, our maintenance.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Anybody else have anything they want to add before we cut off? Yeah, Johnny, how you doing? Hi, Johnny Perez is from Hammond Department of Public Works. He's the assistant superintendent. And one thing we learned during the first phase is when we remember back when we had essential and non-essential, we don't have that right now. We've sort of moved on from that. But one of the things I think we all appreciated in Hammond was the men and women that work in the Public Works Department, because they didn't get any time off during the pandemic, just like a police officer or a firefighter. They were out there working every day. And how you doing, Johnny?
Good morning, mayors, and thank you for allowing us to, say a little bit about our department. Just to let you know, we're taking proper measures to make sure everybody's safe. We have, right now, we have nobody under COVID due to some of the people got tested, came back to work. So if they're off, it's because of other minor issues relating to health. We have signs all over the doors. In order for you to enter the building, we require you to wear a mask, including the employees, and that's going in and out. We clean constantly. Normally we are stepping up in cleaning supplies and everything. We have the PPE also available for the guys, which we provide. We every day we check the temperature in the morning when they come in, make sure they have no fevers or any signs. And if anybody's off, we go through the process. But so far,
right now, you don't have anybody off for COVID.
No, Mayor. That we have people that they were for COVID right now, but they passed that. Now they're off due to other symptoms related to their health or something. But so far, no.
Well, keep everybody safe. It's getting ready to snow, and we need you guys out there working. So thanks, Johnny. Nice to hear from you. Phil Talon, how you doing? Could you unmute real quick?
Good, Mayor. Yes.
Hey, Karen. How you doing, Phil? Could you give me an update from Chief of Staff's perspective?
Certainly. As you know, Mayor, we still and have for a long time have a process in place so that if an employee tests positive for COVID, depending what department they're from, because every department is a little bit unique from the others, We go through a process of determining what needs to happen to get the area that employee was in cleaned. Typically, we bring in a deep cleaning service that was doing jobs with the city for years, but now all of a sudden they've become a very important service for us ever since the pandemic has started. And then we work with every employee that tests positive to explain to them what the process is, how it's going to work as far as how much time they get off, and then what needs to happen prior to them coming back. And then, of course, we talk to all the other employees in those departments to make sure that they're comfortable knowing that we've done everything we can and taken all the precautions we can to make sure that we isolated whoever had the tested positive and we can move forward. So, but everything's going pretty smooth, Mayor. The departments are following procedures. They're definitely doing the social distancing. As you know, at City Hall, we're going through a renovation now to even make our building a little bit more safe, more social distancing, opening up offices, less touching devices, things like in the bathrooms where we're putting things where you don't have to touch anything now. So we're doing everything we can to protect the city.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate your report. Karen Callahan, how you doing?
Hi, good. Two things real quick. I wanted to say something, and then I think Emily wanted to say something. School City of Hammond touched on mental health. I think it's super important right now. This is very depressing. This started as a sprint, and now it's like this big marathon that we're going through. But I think it's really important for people in the city to find some joy every day or some kind of thankfulness, and reach out to maybe an older person that, give them a phone call and talk to them, because I think the depression, I know in healthcare, is real, and it's sad because we can't be with our family and people are really sad. So that would be my last thing I wanted to mention, and I think Emily wanted to say something. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, Emily.
Hi. Adding to Karen, the CDC does have great resources for mental health. It's even like a text. It's free to everyone. So if you ever go on that website, you can find that. Just wanted to push home wearing the mask above the nose, washing your hands. If you can't wash your hands, hand sanitizer at 60% or more, and then the distance. Trying to make sure that you're 6 feet apart if you're in a group, in a crowd that you're not usually around. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Emily. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate everybody's participation. We wanted this to be a weekly meeting, so if you guys cannot attend, if you could have somebody in your place, and let's try to think of something every week that we can report to the public, because things change so quickly. I know we all have things to talk about because we all have our little areas to maintain, but I just again want to thank you on behalf of the residents of Hammond, 81,000 people that rely on all of us to do a great job. So thank you very much for doing this. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Be safe, wear your mask, social distance, and I will see you all again next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.